All right, welcome to The Explainer. Today we're going to dig into the story of a piece of software that, well, it didn't just change computing, it literally built the digital world that most of us are still living in. This is the story of Windows.
So get this, about 90%, yeah, 90 of all personal computers today run on Windows. It's just the landscape we live in, right? But the story here, it definitely didn't start with the simple click of a mouse.
So, to really get why Windows was such a game changer, you gotta ask, what did the world even look like before it? We have to rewind the clock a bit.
This was it. That little blinking cursor, the MS-DOS text prompt. I mean, you had to know the secret language of the machine, literally typing out every single command just to get your computer to do, well, anything.
Okay, so let's get into the problem here. Now, don't get me wrong, this text-based world was super powerful if you knew the lingo. But for most people, it was like hitting a brick wall. And Microsoft knew. They just knew that for the personal computer to be truly personal, this whole setup had to change.
And so in 1985, they give us this, Windows 1.0. Now, it's really important to get this. It wasn't its own operating system. Not yet. It was more like a graphical shell, a pretty face that sat right on top of MS-DOS. It was basically translating your mouse clicks into all those old text commands behind the scenes.
So this first release, it really kicked off this crazy period of innovation. Microsoft was trying to figure out, okay, what should this whole graphical thing on a PC even be? Okay, so check this out. What's so cool here is you can see the jump from Windows 1 on the left to Windows 2 in 1987. See how on Windows 1, the windows can't overlap. They're all tiled. The huge, mind-blowing idea for Windows 2 was that Windows could actually sit on top of each other. Revolutionary, right?
And it wasn't just that. It brought us stuff we totally take for granted now. I'm talking minimize and maximize buttons, the control panel for digging into your system settings, and get this, the very first versions of Microsoft Word and Excel for Windows. The whole shebang started right here.
All right, fast forward 1990, Windows 3 comes out and boom, another massive leap. You can just see it in the comparison here. They introduced 256 colors. It might not sound like much now, but back then, it made the whole thing feel so much more modern and alive.
But honestly, all this stuff, it was just the warm-up act. The real show started in the mid-90s. This is when Windows went from being just a handy computer program to a straight-up cultural phenomenon.
Yep, 1995, the year everything, and I mean everything, changed. This was the moment Windows finally stopped being just a shell. It became a real, honest-to-goodness operating system. MS-DOS was still there, sure, but now it was running in the background, underneath Windows, not the other way around.
It gave us this desktop, this look that became totally iconic. And with it, a whole new way of using a computer, the Start button. Can you believe it? For the very first time, everything you needed was just a click away in that little menu. Oh, and one more huge thing, it had built-in internet support, which meant it came with the browser that would define a whole era, Internet Explorer.
Now, the road from 95 wasn't exactly a smooth ride. They polished things up with Windows 98, which was great. But then came, well, the infamous stumble that was Windows ME. But then in 2001, Microsoft totally redeemed themselves and dropped what a lot of people still think is their masterpiece, Windows XP.
And XP wasn't just a hit, it was a total phenomenon. The secret to its success was its incredible stability, and that came from a huge change under the hood. For the first time, they took that rock-solid, super stable architecture they used for business computers and merged it with the user-friendly version people had at home.
But why? Why was it so much better, so much more stable? To really get that, we need to peek under the hood and look at how the whole thing was built.
All right, so let's pop the hood. We're going to look at the core architecture, the stuff that made a modern, stable Windows even possible.
Okay, so deep down at the heart of any operating system, you've got this thing called the kernel. The easiest way to think about it, it's like the computer's engine and its traffic cop, all rolled into one. It literally manages everything. See, the thing with those early versions of Windows is they were all built on that old MS-DOS foundation. And that meant if just one program misbehaved, poof, your whole computer could crash. But Windows XP, it was totally different. It was built on this super robust foundation called Windows NT.
Now this diagram looks a little complicated, I know. But the idea behind it is simple and just brilliant. The NT architecture basically built a protective wall. So think of it like this. The core system, the supervisor, it lives inside a protected fortress. And all your applications, like your web browser or your games, they live outside in the user space. That wall means if one of those apps crashes, it can't take the whole fortress down with it. And that was the secret sauce for XP stability.
And that's not all. This new architecture also gave us a much smarter way to handle the computer's memory. Instead of programs all fighting over the actual physical RAM chips, the system created something called virtual memory. What it does is it tricks every single program into thinking it has its own private workspace, so they can all run at the same time without tripping over each other. This is the magic that makes modern multitasking feel so seamless.
So this super stable, protected NT foundation, it basically set the stage for the next 20 years of Windows. It gave it the strong bones it needed to evolve and adapt to a world that was changing faster and faster.
And man, that stable foundation was so important because the journey since XP has been a wild ride of adaptation. I mean, we had the troubled launch of Vista, right? Super ambitious, but kind of slow. Then came the version everyone loved, Windows 7, which felt like they just perfected the XP formula. But then, the whole world shifted to touchscreens. That led to the super radical, and let's be honest, pretty controversial Windows 8. So Microsoft had to course correct again with Windows 10, trying to build one system that could somehow work perfectly on both tablets and traditional desktops.
So you look at the whole arc, from a simple graphical shell slopped on top of a text prompt, to the dominant interface for the entire planet. The story of Windows is just one of constant, relentless change. And it really makes you wonder, right? In this new age of AI and cloud computing and interfaces we can just talk to, what's the next window to our digital world even going to look like? I mean, will it even be a window at all?